Welcome everyone for this very special session on building a hardware security startup in the country. Joining me today is Rumit Shah, a director at JISA Softech. So JISA is one of the very few companies, if not the only Indian company, which has production grade HSMs that are not just deployed within the country but also in several parts of the world. We you probably know essentially building a cyber startup itself is hard, right? But building a hardware company is harder. And intersection of these both, building a company that has a hardware component and focuses specifically on security is the hardest, I believe. I in today's discussion, I just wanted to ask Rumit about his journey, bootstrapping the company till now, and then reaching where he is, where they are as a company, and then what is that secret sauce that makes JISA the company it is today. And we wanted to see uh, what JISA did differently when competing with very large manufacturers, and then succeeding in many of the deals. So with that, I welcome Rumit Shah for today's discussion. Rumit,
Thank you, Teja.
of course. So, Rumit, I just wanted to the first question I just wanted to ask you is essentially, can you tell me and the audience, what does JISA do, and what is the space that you operate on?
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, I would like to thank you, Teja, especially that you have arranged this session, you and Vinayak sir, for arranging this session, and of course, DSCI and COE for arranging such a session over there where we can share our experiences and also pass on the guidance for new startups to come across on this. Thank you for it. So the first question which you have is around what we are doing, and maybe how JISA has put across on this kind of activity. So, like, I mean, we are on the space of hardware security. So we have built a hardware security module. What does hardware security means for a layman kind of thing is like, hardware security is about creating security in over a layer over there, how we can secure our data, how we can
Mhm,
establish the device integrity, so
mhm,
that the underlying infrastructure where our sensitive informations are flowing are secure in nature. So we don't have any tampering or any kind of cloning or any kind of misusage of data. So building the
mhm,
trust, mainly the trust over there on the foundation of the hardware. So like creating a trusted hardware, and then based on that we create our processes, our applications which runs on this hardware. So like the baseline infrastructure which we have created a foundation of trust over there, so that the application which runs on this hardware or those activities, nothing can go around, nothing can go, I mean, it cannot be taken out over there in a plain text format and can be misused. So that's where the hardware security is what we have created, and that's where we have created our HSMs, hardware security module, which has been created, which actually helps in doing the cryptography. So it manages the securing the encryption key inside those cryptography in a tamper evident device, so that your data, which is sensitive in nature, is can be encrypted, can be tokenized in a form whichever is required. So your data is secure in nature. So we are actually creating that, as well as we are also making sure the data which has been created on these platforms or whatever platforms it's been created are not tempered, or maybe
mhm,
are non-clonable kind of thing. Those data kind of, I mean, clonable means not, you cannot take out the data over there. So that
mhm,
security authorizations, those layers has been built across on this. And about the products which we said, so we of course had started with the first product was hardware security module, and then of course we developed a key management module, which helps in managing the keys across your infrastructure. So wherever can be your keys, encryption keys, you will be able to manage into centralized key management system. You will be able to it can be your storage, it can be your backups, it can be your databases, it can be your applications. Wherever your encryption keys lies, everything can
Mhm.
be managed from a single place, and you will be able
Mm.
to give access control rights to people so that they will be able to who can access this encryption keys, who can manage encryption keys, or who can actually um, um, uh, use it for their purpose. So those kind of things have been done. So access control has been done, authorizations has been provided over there, and it has been stored in a tamper evident way. So your keys cannot be compromised in any form.
Hmm. So, if I may ask
That's how.
you, so what are where do this HSM go, right? Do they go into some, for example, if I want to secure communications that are happening in my home, so will the HSM be the right vehicle to do it? But where are these HSMs deployed in today's digital age?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So HSMs are deployed on a critical infrastructures. So wherever
Hmm.
there are critical infrastructures over there, those HSMs are deployed. So that means the banks, your PFSI. I mean, it can be banks, NBFCs, financial institutions, any kind of financial insurance companies. Then of government organizations which are large infrastructures at their side and collecting a lot of data, your enterprises which are actually having very large data at their side and security, I mean those data are secured in nature. So enterprises can be manufacturing, it can be pharma has a lot of, I mean pharma or those kind of land, they have a lot of data which is there, which is secure in nature, should be protected over there. So those are the places this HSMs have been deployed, as well as telecom. So there are communications which happens over there, and that it needs to be encrypted and those things. So there where those are the areas which has been this HSMs have been deployed on. I mean mainly the critical infrastructures which requires the this kind of level of security over there.
Hmm. Okay. So when you started this company, I believe this is in 2017, right? So there are already a lot of established players, not a lot, but at least some established players doing the business of the in the HCMs already. So what was that trigger? What made you build JISA as a company, and what made you focus specifically on HSMs, if I may ask?
Yeah, so when we started development, so it was, of course, you're right, 2017. The research work started a bit earlier in 2016, but of course, official establishment is 2017 onwards. And yes, the main area which we at that time found out was that yeah, this HSMs were there in market. Uh, Although the activity, so in terms of the HSMs which are there in market, right, were
Mm-hmm.
from the foreign countries. Okay, so there is
Mm-hmm.
nobody in India who were there and who was doing this activity, and they were quite rigid in nature. So of course, HSM's job is to protect the encryption key and use this
Mm-hmm.
encryption key, but they were quite rigid in nature. Means you cannot use it flexibly. So the main need in what was there in the market, it was about we going in market, doing this research work for the market, understanding the customer requirements, that what exactly customer wants to have out of this in the critical infrastructure. So those were the pain points. Like we were to go across. We had done a lot of research with the customers. We had banks, those activities which banks and government organizations have contributed to us on this research work, where they have given across inputs that how they are having issues in the current available options which were there in market. So there that in current available bench which was only dominated with one player, which was there, one or two players on this. So how they had issues with that current players on market, and then how we can overcome those kind of challenges. So with the help of customizations and with the help of usability of this kind of things, those were the pain points with customers, and that's where the trigger came over there, that why can't we put across. Secondly, all this were, as I said earlier also, that all these were foreign companies. Till now, I mean, other than us, all are foreign companies which works on this line. So those are foreign countries, and they were dominating the market. And so with that particular things, the Atmanirbhar Bharat activity, which is like we wanted to build across here in India, something so that we mainly the IP resides in India. You are not sharing. I mean, you are not stuck if for any geopolitical crisis. So the customers who are there, they are not stuck with any kind of geopolitical crisis going across the world, kind of thing. Your critical infrastructure is always secure in nature because the IP of the product resides in India. Those other points which are there, which was our trigger points to start this
Yeah.
kind of thing.
That's very interesting point that you raise. Essentially, for critical infrastructure, essentially the IP is within the country, and I believe you also have a sort of like a manufacturing facility that essentially takes care of most of the manufacturing as well. So that is something that I have seen very few companies invest in, because most of the time we focus, okay, so let's just do the design and then outsource manufacturing to somewhere cheaper. So that's good. And I love the fact that you thought in that direction before you even started building the product, and not just as an afterthought. So coming to the third question, right? So security is good, but at the end of at the core of your product, I believe is a very strong hardware, right? And hardware, building a hardware company, hardware startup itself is quite challenging because of different reasons. Can you throw some light on the challenges that you faced while building not just the security part but the actual hardware part within the country?
Yeah, so of course the most challenging part is building that hardware and taking across that thing. So the building a hardware is the most challenging part, which is the security. Of course, what is the goal of that hardware? We need to actually check across, but of course, the building a hardware is most critical thing. Uh,
Hmm.
on those lines, we actually had a long-term plan, and we executed built a short-term plans within over there. So what was our research was that we had done research that what is the need which is required in the market. So that research work was done that what is required in market. Then we wanted to make sure that we are able to place this particular requirements, whatever are there, place into our goal, that how we can achieve this kind of goal in this. Okay. Then selection of a critical components over there, whether we can directly go for the chip manufacturing or select some particular chip which can give those conditions. Selection of those things are very critical in nature. So like sometime it might happen that we build a company which is actually doing only research but not actually doing the revenue generation over there. That's where we have actually done our short-term goals and long-term goals accordingly. So long-term goals were divided into short-term goals over there and built across that way that we select a particular thing. We also had selected a such a way that we are above our competitions, like what they give a throughput. We have made something throughput which is higher than them, so that we can have some unique points across our competitions over there. uh, Selecting those kind of goals is very critical, which we have put across in this. And getting a resources, I mean, I mean those resources are very niche in market. I mean, when we work on this kind of environment, getting this resources is very very challenging. So when we have done, like when we have hired a resource, we have created a very rigid or very not rigid but very complex technical rounds with our teams. So I mean, when we select a team, and then of course we even when we have resources with us, each resource is not less than 4 year or 5 year of experience. So like they are there since our inception, those kind of things. So it is critical resources which are there. So that's how we have actually selected and make sure that what are their goals aligned to organization goals, and then created our piece around. As well as there are helps which
Hmm.
NCOA and DSCI helps in doing about how we can leverage some of the academias to get
Hmm.
our thing done from those places, from the academias over there. That's where we also get those helps across, so that we are able to make sure that what we wanted to achieve in our long term goals can be get taken across on those.
Hmm. But see, hardware space typically needs a significant investment, right? So, for example, someone wants to build any hardware company, then you are looking at least one at least 1 crore for initial sort of like a prototype, gi- giving it bringing it into a shape that you can actually showcase it to actual customer. But in your journey, it's surprising to me that you've been bootstrapped till now. So, can you what is that secret sauce? How did you stay bootstrapped till this point, and still sell globally?
So yeah, that's what our long-term plan and short-term plan is, where the main activity which is there. So
Mm-hmm.
see, what has happened within this journey is that this short-term plans were with the goals that we wanted
Mm-hmm.
to build this thing which is adaptable over there short term, and then of course sell it across in the market. So we had this sales over there. Sales were there always on the mind. So we don't want it to only be a research company or only do a R&D work for 3 years and then we'll start doing our research. So we have
Mm-hmm.
actually, I mean, then we'll do our sales kind of thing. We did not had that terms over there. We wanted to, of course, do research, put a lot of time onto our research work, but we also wanted to take out products faster way, so that those products and the features, maybe limited features, can go into market and we'll be able to get our revenues done from those. So we actually did that activity with our teams, working on those lines, where we
Mm-hmm.
had developed modules which can go and deploy into market, go and deploy into customers. We are able to generate our revenues out of those small modules. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, then we were able to put across a low, I mean, on terms of the whole suite with of this thing. That's what we have developed our whole, I mean, whole all-in-one suite kind of thing, which can actually meet
Mm-hmm.
all your data at rest and data in motion, encryption, and those kind of things from our side. So there's where the main what we say about the idea was about dividing into short-term goals and then putting across those goals with the numbers, so that we are able to meet to those, and then we don't get into any financial crunches or any of those kind of things. Those were the main areas, and of course we got a lot of support from industry. So like we got early customers, whatever research we've done, we don't got early customers, we got partners who have trusted us, that yeah, we can take them across in the field and do activities. So those were also some of the factors which has worked. And um, so we had teams which has been divided into multiple activities. We have teams which works on this. So some is doing technical, some is doing sales, and their roles are defined. So they will actually go across and do this activity, and this is there since starting. So roles were defined. So those roles have been, I mean, not everybody is doing everything. That was the main idea behind it. So no, I mean, not to do everything alone. It is
Mm-hmm.
like teams are defined, and that they have to do their task accordingly, and they are actually so that's why we were able to go and we present across in front of customers. So like we were there in present of customers, and we were been, I mean, now we are in a brand which has been known across here in India, at least here in India, and then of course we are also expanded now globally.
Hmm. Okay, good. That's very interesting. Look, on a technical front, right? What is it that you did differently compared to an already established product that essentially sets you apart? On a technical front, can you throw some light on how did you differentiate your product? You did talk about essentially research driven product development aspects, but on a technical front, is there anything that you are doing differently compared to the competition?
Yes, so we have, I mean, done when we did research, so we were
Hmm.
actually finding out the gaps. that
Hmm.
what are the challenges and what are the gaps which customers are facing across. So those were technical fronts which were to overcome. But the research further was also with our teams that how can we better with those uh, technically. So like our competition, the largest competition, which has, I
Hmm.
mean, 90% market share, more than 90% market share kind of thing. There the it's the product HSM. So like the product HSM is been compared with TPS, transaction per second. How many transaction per second can work with this? So
Hmm.
their
Hmm.
highest model ends at 10,000 TPS. Okay,
Okay.
and our we have a model which can go up till 35,000 TPS. So those
Wow.
were some of the unique things which our teams had worked on. That, so like how we
Hmm.
can get into those lines, so which can
Hmm.
actually bring in more suitability for customer, more acceptability for customers, how they can when their workloads, because their workloads
Hmm.
will increase, they should have the infrastructure which can take on those kind of I mean transactions, right? So that's where we actually built across that way. So those are some of the points, and just give one example. And then the similar way there were, I mean, we have a HSM which can be multi-tenant. So, okay, so like if you see about compliances,
Hmm.
there are different compliances like PCI DSS compliances. You have now
Hmm.
DPDP compliances. You have HIPAA compliances. Lot of
Hmm.
compliances which are there on this. So when we say PCI DSS compliances, they say that the HSM should be separate.
Hmm.
You should have a separate HSM for your PCI network, and you should have a
Hmm.
separate HSM for your other activities, kind of thing. Those kind of compliances are there. And similar ways, UIDA is also saying across in their side that you should
Hmm.
have a separate. You can use a thing, but you should have a this thing. So that way, what we have created is that we have used a technology which is called as SRIOV. I'm going in
Okay.
technical kind of thing in this, but
Okay.
we using a SRIOV technology, we are actually able to segregate between the
Hmm.
memory, between the same hardware. We are able to segregate those things, define a separate IP address, define a separate LAN for those kind of devices. So from a single HSM, you are able to
Hmm.
create 4, 10, 20 such kind of different
Okay.
HSMs, which are called single tenant HSMs. So
Oh. Okay.
those has different memory of its own, different IP address of its own, different policies of its own. So this way,
Hmm.
it helps customer to optimize on the same hardware and
Hmm.
use it across for multiple ways. So this are not only for, I mean, end customers. This can be also for the cloud providers which use across
Hmm.
for them side,
Hmm.
where they wanted to put it across, but you are actually giving a single tenant which is having isolated. Everything is isolated. The memory is isolated. Your IP address is isolated. Those things are isolated. So those are some of the unique points which we actually put across along with the gaps which were there in market.
Very interesting. I always thought essentially you need to have, let's say, one physical HSM for a specific use case. It's interesting that you are able to essentially sort of like a created like sort of like a virtualization environment with every HSM having an independent memory and resources, and even LAN for that matter. That's quite interesting. I think that's a good technical achievement. Speaking from a technology perspective itself. See, for someone who wants to, so where does security come into picture, right? So, what are some of the things that you see from a security perspective that you have to do differently from a regular cyber security company? For example, there's a lot more testing for something like side channels. Can you talk about those aspects as well? So, how does GISA separate? I mean, what is involved from a security perspective compared to a cyber security startup that are working on software side?
Yes, so mostly see what happens on the software side. I mean, how the software side works. So people will work on encryption, they will work
Mhm.
on tokenization, anonymization, those kind of techniques. So what happens over there is that they work on this, creating the software, and
Hmm.
based on software, they wanted to achieve this security of the data. But ultimate
Hmm.
main issue is that how you are ensuring. your secrets, your encryption keys, or those kind of things. So that's where the security has come in place, that where how you can do it. So there are multiple ways of doing this kind of thing. Like you put across HSM, which we have built. So you put across HSM, you will be able to put across the encryption key in that. And then your application, whatever is getting, your encryption key is always secure in nature. So whatever is data is been put across. Another way is actually putting across a TPM within the server and keeping the encryption key over there. So we have also built across our key management, which is compatible with TPM. So your uh, main point is that the application vendor don't know this hardware layer uh, securities which can be enabled to do more activities, right? So more to make sure their data is secure in nature, or they don't have unauthorized access to their data. So this technology is what we have enabled for them. So TPM based KMS is also there. We have HSM which is available over there, so that they will be able to get those security which they require for their application. Those were the areas which we had worked on. And then of course the security, I mean cyber security or data security is a very vast area. How you can protect the data, like I gave an example. So we have I mean India's largest public sector bank is using our infrastructure on this, where they are actually using a whole key management doing from our KMS key management solution, which
System.
is having
Yeah.
backed with HSM. So KMS system, so they encrypt all their Oracle databases with this. They encrypt their F5 WAF, which is there in this. So they encrypt with their. They have some of the cloud platforms. They manage the cloud platform keys from this key management system. They are able to do it seamlessly from here. They are also able to do there are lots and lots of file folder systems over there. So they are able to also do encryption and those things with, of course, depending on our KMS, and we also given them transparent encryption solutions over there, so they are able to transparently encrypt those files over there. So I mean, they have around right now gone ahead with 10 plus use cases over there, and they are going to actually have within the organization around 50 plus use cases which would be used across this particular system on this. And they would hold the whole of the organization or bank's cryptographic key management is dependent on this particular system. So they are actually, and then I mean you might be able to understand that there would be millions of keys which this device
Yeah.
would be managing on this.
Wow, I mean, if that speaks volumes about essentially the product and the confidence that it has, and I am really great listening to from where you started to where you are in a very short time frame. I think what close to 7 8 years now, less than 8 years. So that's very good, and I can't wait to see what you will become in the next 10 15 years, right? So. Someone, if let's say someone wants to start a company in hardware security, because what we are seeing as DSCI is that this area is evolving. This I mean, we can't expect 100 companies, but we can certainly expect a good chunk of companies working on semiconductor security. So for someone who is planning to and JISA being one of the very early entrants into the hardware semiconductor security space, what should one keep in mind before they go about this journey of building a hardware security or semiconductor security startup?
Yeah, very good question, I guess. So I'll just put across our experience behind it. Uh,
Hmm.
let's say first is the research work, what the
Hmm.
customer actually requires. Like it should not be this thing that we feel this is a product in demand and start developing those products. So like it should be a research based product, that there is a need in the market, and then that's how we are actually developing. Second is about not only doing research need over there. There can be one or two or 10 customers which would require those kind of things. Not everybody would require those kind of things over there. So your need or research should be such a way that how you can scale this product and how this product can be gone into masses. That's the very critical product for you to become a successful activity like on this. So that's where What we say is that, of course, you should do research, and you should
Hmm.
have the research such a way that the product is required or the solution is required in market, which
Hmm.
would go in masses. So that's where the first has to come, and then of course dividing them into shorter small products or
Um,
small
yeah.
solutions,
Yeah.
which can make you revenues, because
Hmm.
we should not have into financial crisis. Then we should, because of long R&D time, because
Hmm.
research and development would take a longer time for us to get into a productization. So if you
Hmm.
have those
Hmm.
long time over there, we
Hmm.
should actually have something which can go into market and you are able to get revenues out of it. So like, what in our journey also we have done it that way, that we were trying to get the revenues from our smaller solutions over there. So
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
had created some, so we are able to get it across in the revenue. So like, you should have your financial, your financial should be such a way that you are able to put across a right revenue for your research work.
Hmm.
That's how is there. Selecting a correct team is one
Hmm.
of the very critical part. You should have a very, the team should be, it's okay, it takes time for you to select a team. Okay, but selecting a right team, a right co-founders, this is
Hmm.
very critical. So sometimes it happens that we start a company, and we get into, friends and those, it starts, but once we
Hmm.
start, we understand that this is not going right, it's not happening, and everything is getting into one person over there, that only one person is responsible for doing kind of thing, and the others are not doing work. We should actually, at a starting point, or maybe when we realize, we should actually make those steps so that they either they start working, or they don't be there in your journey, which is because there is a dream which has been dreamt by one or two or three people
Hmm.
over there, and they said they wanted to develop something, and there should be no hurdles for those things. So that's where selecting a right team,
Hmm.
right co-founder. Team should be assigned with a specific task. It should not be
Hmm.
that only one person is assigned with what of lot. One or two or three persons are assigned with a lot of work over there, and you are not, and it is multitask assigned over there. You should have assignment of work, or maybe roles, division of roles very carefully between the teams.
Hmm.
Who is responsible for what? It can come, of course, people can do multi work or multitasking, but the assignment of majority of roles is very critical. So if you assign a role which is of that person, and then you start working on it, I'm sure that everything will fall in place kind of thing properly.
Hmm.
So these are some of the key components of maybe starting across. Selecting a correct product is a very critical work which has to be there. It should have market. It should not
Hmm.
be only a research kind of thing. It should have a market. It
Hmm.
should be well thought, and we should also, between your teams, you should think about it, hear it out, all the whatever in the brainstorming session, hear it out everything in a positive
Hmm.
mindset, that it can work, it cannot work, all the negative things, all the positive things has to be heard. It should not be
Hmm.
only positive or goody kind of thing. It should be always a negative, positive. Everything should
Balance.
come up
Yeah.
balance
Okay.
over there.
So I think that perspective is quite interesting. So because most of the, I mean, not most, but some of the startups sort of like try to develop everything at once and then try to sell them before they sort of make see any good revenue. But I think the path that you took, which is essentially like have a very strong foundational research working with the potential customers or the customers from the day one of the journey, but at the same time delivering something to them so that they can start paying for you, so and use those funds to build the wider portfolio of the solutions. I think that's a great takeaway for many of the startups that probably are watching the webinar today. So can you tell us something about how do you go about developing a product, right? So essentially we did talk about having a good research done, and from there piecemealing it, and doing, let's say, small chunks, one complete feature, small feature developed, and then sell it, and then make revenue, and then keep building more of those. But on an holistic, on a complete, let's say, if you have to go about, you are in the process of essentially going about doing a complete product development journey, right? So how does that process look like in JISA? Can you throw some light?
Yeah, of course. After the research work has been done across, when we sit across on the product development, architecture is the most important thing which we have to design across. So, like the architecture should be flexible enough,
Mm-hmm.
which would be able to take on across your future developments and future activities. So that's where most of the time should be, I mean, about the development. Before the development, actual development starts, you should actually spend across on the architecture and talking about the architecture, designing of the architecture over there. So that's where we also, any new product or any activities, we design the architecture first, and that's very critical in nature, that we make sure that we are able to keep a flexible kind of thing, that any future requirements can be met. Like, just to give an example over there, we had developed an HSM. Now the HSMs are going to be running on the symmetric and asymmetric algorithms which are there right now. And okay, but we had actually created such a way that we wanted to put across quantum safe algorithms inside. We are able to put a quantum safe algorithm also into our system. So we have kept it that way, some kind of architecture way, that we, if we wanted to port something which is not right now or available, but we would be able to port it. It 5 years down the line, it would require to be done. The same hardware need not to be changed. We'll be able to port something over there in the hardware and make it. So the architecture is very critical, which can be scalable at later time. Even the current architecture which we have with our HSMs, so I say that our HSMs are measured in TPS. So we have some HSM starting from 500 TPS. But if a customer's workload increases, we, with a firmware upgrade, we are able to increase the TPS. We don't need to change the hardware.
Oh,
So that
okay.
way, that kind of thing is there, is been designed in such a way that we will be able
Okay.
to, I mean, it can increase up till some time, up till some TPS, like 500 TPS can go up till 5,000 TPS. So that way we can increase, I mean, those kind of thing with the firmware upgrade. No need of changing the hardware
Hardware
kind
itself.
of. So,
Oh, that's
so
interesting. Okay.
that's how design in the architecture. That way, that and then the product development need to be started, and of course the product development need to be divided into multiple tasks. In our way, which we do is, of course, divide into multiple tasks. Each places are been designed in a features, so that those features, as soon as it comes, it goes with a feature, and then of course goes with the testing, multiple round of testing which been created before the product development also gets completed. So like, we have a testing team which actually does this, use cases written, and those test rounds are written across. So everything is when it's not only automatic testing or automations over there, which is also manual. Both are being taken across with our team, so that actual live use cases or whatever is there with our field people who have given across us, all the activities are been done on the whatever development which we are doing on the product over there. um, Along with this architecture development, when we have an hardware setup kind of thing, we require a manufacturing setup, right? So of course sometimes it is easier for, I mean, if you don't have a capabilities, or if you have a financial issues, you can of course go for an external manufacturers for your thing. But what you are compromising is your designs. Okay, your ultimate designs are getting compromised over there, right? So I mean, it might not be your firmwares, but your designs might get compromised over there. So there can be, you can take a multiple modes over there, how you are actually doing. These are all part of secure supply chain mainly. How you take care of this design work and those things, and maybe in-house development, in-house manufacturing is always better. And
Hmm.
if we can plan, and if we are having those kind of finances or those kind of financial ability with us, so it is always better to have an in-house manufacturing unit and plan for it when you
Hmm.
start developing a product. So you can plan, you can do testing, those kind of things can be taken across over there in-house over there.
Hmm.
And of course, building a very strong in-house support team. Don't depend support, after sale
Yeah. Yeah.
support.
Yeah.
Building an
Yeah.
in-house support team, um, because anything which we sell across in market, a very large support or very large part comes across from your uh, reference customer when
Hmm.
you sell across in there. So your customers whom you give your solutions uh, should refer to you. It should be
Hmm.
that way, that they should refer to you. And how you will get reference is only by giving a customer delight,
Great
which is
stuff.
called as giving a great support to the customers. Be on your toes to give support at any given point of time. So
Hmm.
be, I mean, you might have any kind of thing. So build across that way. So that's why how
Hmm.
we have also created, we have built our own in-house 24/7 support teams.
Okay.
So they, and it can support all kind of customers, any kind of customers. They can call us anytime, and we
Hmm.
support them 24/7. So
Oh.
its teams are there available. That's how we can bring it across is, of course, those are some of the some things which you can actually put across over there and make sure the customer is happy with your services, and then
Hmm.
customer delight comes across with this area. So that's how. And don't depend on, don't be dependent only onto your partners and their support teams.
Hmm.
It has to be your support teams, or you should, I mean, you should, of course it depends on the scale number, what kind of scale you are working on, but you should have your own support teams to be there. You might outsource somewhere on this thing, but outsourcing would challenge for you at a later time, or
Hmm.
maybe at any given point of time.
Hmm.
It is better to have a support in house, and you should build this support yourself, and that would give you more business.
Okay, that's quite interesting. But at the same time, I think one has to be a bit conscious to not. I mean, at least for startups who are still evolving, what Rumit says is that have a very strong plan that you will think about having, let's say, establish a sort of like a smaller manufacturing facility. At least the core of what you do can be within facility that you control, but at the same time don't rely on because most of the times sort of we partner with external partners, and then we rely on their support teams to support our customers. But very important point that Rumit has raised that I really liked was essentially have your own support team and then make them front facing the customers. That way you know as a company what are some of the problems that customers are facing, and then essentially you can build those. And then at the same time the kind of support that you offer should be in a way that the customer, your customer, will become a champion of your product. I think that's an ideal position to be in for anyone. That's great, Ramit. So one question that I have is on essentially when you started the support from, let's say, ecosystem is still limited, right? But nowadays I see a lot of schemes that are coming up from let's say government to help support the startups. So is there any how do you see that landscape evolving? Let's say for someone who's starting a startup now, do you think this is the right time to start a hardware company? And if you can throw some light on some of the support that is probably available, I can share some of the support that we have visibility into. But is there anything that you can throw some light on?
This is the best time to start a company. I mean, in terms of any, I mean, this last over this maybe a decade on this current time which is going across is the best time to start a company. Any
Hmm.
of your ideas which are there, which is having I mean, potential to grow, and there are some needs over there in market, and it's having potential to grow, you should actually start. It's of course required. Now, government has given a lot of flexibility also in terms
Mhm.
of giving across a lot of grants, a lot of areas how you can get funds also. So those
Mhm.
are there, how you can get across on funds, so those, and without reducing or without losing your equities
Mhm.
in your organization. So those are, there are a lot of areas which you will be able to get some kind
Mhm.
of funds, so that you can take across your decisions and take across your product development that way. So this is of course right time to start the start organization, and any kind of thing which can be on a security side, cyber security side. Those are right now is very. I mean, I'll say it's a very good time to start, because
Mhm.
if you
Mhm.
see all across the world globe, it's that way that data protection, data privacy are very key areas which is coming across.
Mhm.
Cybersecurity is a very key area which everybody is looking across. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Earlier, I know before 7 years or before that, data protection, cyber security were been taken across. Yeah, it should be a good to have product. Now it has
Mhm.
become as a
Mhm.
must to have solutions over there. So that's
Yeah.
where
So
now,
Mhm.
yeah, go on.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so now it has become a very critical part that you, I mean, it's a right time to start
Mhm.
anything on of course, on a cyber security side. To start
Mhm.
is a very good time to start across.
Mhm.
Be it on the market, be it also on the government side, support side also.
So you are essentially working on payment HSM, if I'm correct. So can you throw some light on what is a payment HSM and how is that different from a regular HSM, and essentially your plans on launching it? Can you throw some light on those?
Okay, so again, payment HSM is based on the the critical infrastructure of banking system. Okay, so banking can be banks, or it can be fintechs, or those areas who works on the on the financial sides of it. Okay, what does payment HSM do is about, I mean, just for giving a one example, there are a lot of examples which are there. What does they do? If you say you have a ATM debit card pin, so the pin encryption decryption happens via a payment HSM. Okay. So your payment HSM sits over there, makes sure whatever data has been pushed across or pin which has been done, decryption happens. Your pin has been encrypted in the bank's infrastructure with an HSM. So the decryption of pin or validating the pin happens via HSM. Okay. So HSM uses the encryption key which are there with them, and via that the pin encryption decryption happens. Same way, your 3D secure pins, uh, your 3D secure OTPs, you would have those kind of activities. You will have a check truncation system, which actually is bank to bank and those kind of systems. Then you have UPI systems, UPI pin authentications over there. Those happens over backbone is the security backbone over there is HSM. So payment HSMs are actually the backbones for those critical infrastructure, and you'll understand the scale which we are now growing. Your digital payments and those things are those at that line. Again, the credit card also falls under the same lines for credit card authentication and those things. So, uh, this all falls under your backbone for the security is HSM in this, which is payment HSM. These are specialized HSM other than the general purpose HSMs. So we do general purpose right now. That's what again, step by step how we can grow across. Use the
Yeah.
general purpose HSM for our requirements for encryption. Now going ahead with the payment HSM for the payment industries to work on those payment sites, and the plans for it that we would be coming across very soon with our payment HSM. We're going to do a launch for the same maybe in a event over there, which would be about having the first Make in India payment HSM to be pushed across to market kind of thing on that
Wow,
side.
that's fantastic.
Shape.
So there's one comment from Vishal asking essentially, um, how can, let's say, HSM be a part of something like IoT device security? So IoT security is again becoming is already there. We most of the devices are coming up with some security features. So how can HSM be a part of that protection profile of an IoT device? Can you throw some light? And if you can throw some use cases that you probably have worked on, that would be great as well.
Okay, so about IoT devices, so I'll just give you a live example what we are also doing across
Hmm.
with an IoT device. So there are a lot of smart meters in the market now. Okay,
Yeah.
it can be your electricity or gas, or those smart meters are there. What happens is the data from the smart meters comes to a command center, and
Hmm.
then HES system is called across. So that comes
Hmm.
over there, and then it is processed. Now
Hmm.
the issue here about and how does the IoT security comes in play is that uh, the devices which are sending data to the command center, there
Hmm.
can be man in middle attack, right?
Hmm.
There can be man in middle attack over there, and there can be device cloning can happen over
Hmm.
there. That's it.
Yeah.
It would look a similar device kind of thing, and that would send across the data. So
Hmm.
what we do
Hmm.
is we give with our key management system and HSM
Hmm.
system over there. What we do
Hmm.
is we give each device a certificate. We
Okay.
issue a certificate to them
Hmm.
with the unique properties of the devices. We create a certificate which is there. We also give an encryption key over there. So when the data before the data gets transferred, it gets encrypted. One is that.
Hmm.
Secondly, the when the device communicates to the command center,
Hmm.
it authenticates. It gives its authenticity. It gives over there first that I am this device, please authenticate me. Once it has been authenticated, then the data has been transferred. The data is
Hmm.
encrypted in nature, and the data gets decrypted with HSM over there.
Hmm.
So that's how the security is there. One further way, which we are actually also doing across, is about the two-way communication in this. So once the data has been pushed across, or maybe there are some firmware which need to be put across to this IoT devices, automatic firmware updates which are there. There we create a root of trust. Okay, there is a root of trust which is created in HSM, and this helps to sign that firmware and send
Hmm.
across to the devices. The devices then understands it has come from their root of trust, and then starts the processing. But device also does the authentication, whether it has
Hmm.
come from the root of trust which is their root of trust, and then they would actually do the firmware upgrade inside. This
Hmm.
way, we are actually doing a security. We're bringing a security in this IoT space with this smart
Hmm.
devices. This is one of the example which I just gave it across, which we are doing
Hmm.
already some of the activities over
Okay,
there.
that's great. So another question that came up is essentially, can why don't we can we use essentially sort of like an normal HSM for payment as well, or is payment HSM any different than a regular HSM?
So that's what the difference will come with us is our payment HSM. So like the question is about the standard right now, the market leader of the HSM, right? They use whether their HSMs payment HSMs can be used across for general purpose activity or not. Okay, so the point is their HSMs are actually used for the payment industry. They don't have the they cannot have the general purpose. And as I said earlier also, like PCI DSS, they will say that they can only a payment HSM. They need a dedicated HSM for their own purpose because they said that it should have a separation of the memory and those things, so it cannot be shared. Okay, what we are bringing as a unique plus point with our HSM is that our HSM can have a multi-tenant architecture, which is based on say, division of the memory within. This can run a general purpose and a payment both together in it, with a segregation of the uh, or what we say about the memories over there and the IP address over there. So you will be able to run a payment and a general purpose requirement in within from a one HSM.
Okay, that's interesting. So I think there was one question essentially that says that how is that how is what you mentioned about IoT security and HSMs being playing a part of that? How is that different from standard? But from what I understand, Vishal, see, standards are there, but to enable standards, say for example, you need to have a device attestation, you need to have a device attestation, device authentication, and a root of trust. So what JISA does is that JISA provides that root of trust. JISA does provide some of those APIs for you to, for example, load the certificate, do device authentication. For example, standards say probably you need to have a secure firmware update, but how do you go about doing that? Is where JISA will help you through their cryptographic keys, and the APIs that they offer you. For example, to sign to sign the firmware update, to in some cases even verify the firmware integrity that is there on the device, and so on and so forth. That's how JISA can help you out. So there's one comment, not so much from a technical perspective, but is there a partnership program with JISA?
We don't sell directly to customer. We are actually with the partners only. So we sell
Okay.
with all tier one, tier two kind of partners in all the
Mhm.
markets. So be it India, Middle East, or any kind of market which is there. So we sell across via partners only. So we have a partner program uh,
Okay.
which uh, which can be taken across.
Sure. So, is there a place that one can go to look for partnership with you? How do they get in touch with you, Rumit? With JISA?
Anytime there is a common email IDs which is written for sales in this, they can just drop an email and our teams will reach out to them and they can take it across. We have a portal also for partnership program. From there also it can be subscribed and they can
Okay.
take it across. So that our teams will reach out to them and enable them with a partner. There are a lot of activities. We do a lot of in the partner program. We do a lot of trainings for partners. We do take
Mhm.
webinars for partners, train on all solutions of to partners for our solution which we give across. So those are there well established thing which can be taken across by team.
Okay.
On the
Uh,
IoT standard piece which you said across is right about we giving those checks and everything, as well as on the smart meter which I said across, there are some AMI guidelines which has been pushed across, which
mhm, mhm,
requires which is specifically called for HSMs, key
mhm,
management, and certificate lifecycle management solutions, and how to use
mhm,
those things in the environment. That's where we have made it compliant to that standards,
mhm.
to those guidelines, so that it can be used across by the smart meter providers in this.
Okay. That's
We
fantastic.
just can, we are actually enabler for the, just to give the components to make it enabled by the people to use it across.
Awesome. That's fantastic. With that, I think we've come very close to the end time. I want to thank you, Rumit, for all the perspective that we shared, that you shared till now. It's always pleasure talking to you, and then I certainly learned a thing or two about how should one go about essentially building products, not focusing on solving everything at once, piecemeal it, use and more importantly have the customer on board, be the customer, be a champion of your product.
Right.
Easier said than done, but essentially that's what you have to be aiming for. And more importantly, at least on the core services, or at least on the core tech part, you need to have a control, be it having your internal teams doing the work, or even thinking about having a sort of like an internal fabrication and delivery mechanisms. More importantly, having a support team that will support the customers, and not just relying on the partner network for certification. So that those are my key takeaways from today's discussion. Thank you so much. Isha and Rumit and JISA is launching a payment HSM at GFF. So if you are at GFF, keep an eye out, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you so much,
Thank
Rumit, for your.
you. Thank you, Teja. Thank you, NCOE and DSCI for arranging it. Special thanks to Vinayak sir on this part. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks,
Thank
thanks.
you.
You have a good one. Have a
Thank
good
you,
one, all
everyone.
of you.